For years, I carried around this existential anxiety. It was a pit in my stomach that I would wake up with, and I was too afraid to look at it. So I tried to escape it. I tried to overcome it. I tried to deny it and bury it. I thought that there was something that I could do or achieve or get that would somehow make it go away, as if something was wrong or missing, and if I did something right or if I got something, that it would then disappear. But then I finally gathered up the courage to look it straight in the eye, to understand it. It became so exhausting that I couldn't tolerate it anymore. I had to investigate it. I wanted to see where it was coming from, because I could remember a time it wasn't there. I didn't always have this. I didn't always experience this. So what is it all about? For a while, I tried to convince myself that it was just something normal that happens when you get older, and maybe it was just something in the collective, something that the world is going through, and I'm just experiencing it as well. I'm just feeling it. But then I realized that those were just my little excuses to not take ownership and responsibility for my own experience. It's just my escape plan. I started by just noticing the moments that that experience was going on. First thing in the morning, sometimes in social settings around new people, often when I went to create and share something with the world. There didn't seem to be a clear pattern with these feelings, but what I noticed was that while I thought that I was open to feeling these, really what was happening was that I was actually suppressing it and denying it, so I never really gave myself permission to embrace it, to allow it, to deeply feel it. It was always this sort of push and pull relationship where something would come up and I would feel resistance to it. I would feel the fear or even the shame of it, and then I would push it away. And in that pushing away, I didn't really give myself the opportunity to be open to it. And the more I noticed I was doing that, the more I started to understand what the real problem was. That I actually wasn't allowing myself to accept that those feelings were there. I was denying that part of me, and I was abandoning myself. And that's when it started to become much simpler, because rather than running in those moments, turning my back on my own experience, I started to recognize that tendency. This is what started to bring the real understanding of these experiences. In the willingness to face those feelings within me and the curiosity to explore their origin, I suddenly had access to so much more freedom. And because I was no longer trying to fix them or change them or overcome them, they started to feel a lot less intense, a lot less threatening. The fear and the resistance around them subsided, and I started to realize that the resistance to these experiences was actually what was causing the fear and the exhaustion. That there wasn't actually anything wrong. I had been so scared of what it meant that these were happening, and of what that experience would be like if I were to open myself up to it, that I created so much more around it that actually became so much more than it really was. That's what prevented me from going into it and allowing myself to feel it. And that's all that it really took to move through these things. I realized that I didn't need them to go away. There wasn't anything wrong. I didn't need to fix anything. I just needed to allow myself to go there. I just needed to accept that they were happening. And everything started to become easier. Everything started to become lighter. That pit in my stomach started to soften and open. I began to cultivate an attitude of openness and willingness to face this in the moment, no matter what situation I was in, if I was with people or if I was on my own, or didn't matter where, because I understood my tendency and the nature of that feeling. I was no longer contained by it and held down by it. I could just face it in the moment, process it, allow it to move, accept that it was happening, and embrace myself in the process. And in this, I began to recognize the story that I'd created around all of these feelings and experiences, that there must be something wrong with me, with what's happening. But that was the only thing that was wrong, was that I believed that there was a problem, that I thought I was broken. But really it was just my own longing to allow myself to feel what was happening, to accept all of the variety of experiences that I could have, even the ones that I didn't like. And that's when I started to notice something really interesting, is that the more I embraced the ones that I didn't like, the more free I felt, and the more the experiences that I did like became even richer and more prevalent. It was as if the more I stepped into that heaviness and darkness, into the shadows within myself, the more I recognized the light, the joy, the freedom, the love. I started to see that the unwillingness to explore that aspect of me was also cutting off my ability to recognize the lightness in me, the greatness in me. So I was capping myself at both ends. I thought by resisting the negative that I would only see more of the positive. But in fact, I denied myself from both. And after quite a bit of practice now, I've begun to even look forward to these little moments of contraction and fear and resistance, because I know now what they lead to: even greater liberation. If I'd only known this years ago, I would have saved myself so much struggle, so much suffering, so much confusion around why I was feeling stuck, feeling blocked, feeling small, feeling unworthy. And if I were to go back to that younger version of myself, I would just say everything's okay. There's no need to be afraid of it. There's no need to resist it. In fact, everything that you want and everything that you truly are is on the other side of embracing those experiences. Your true self in all of its glory is right on the other side of all that you're afraid of. So don't be afraid to move through it. You'll be so much stronger and freer if you do.